You already know this, don't you? Deep down in that place you don't like to visit too often, you know the truth. You're on your own. But let me be more specific because I need you to feel this completely. You're sitting in your apartment. Maybe it's late at night, maybe it's early morning, and your phone is in your hand. You're scrolling through your contacts and you're looking for that one person you can call. That one person who will actually show up, not with advice, not with platitudes, not with that sympathetic head tilt and the, "I'm so sorry you're going through this" voice, but someone who will actually do something, someone who will actually help. And as you scroll, as your thumb moves down that list of names, people you've known for years, people you've helped move apartments, people you've listened to cry at 3 in the morning, people you've celebrated with and suffered, alongside, you realize something that makes your stomach drop. There's no one. Not really. Oh, sure, they'll text back eventually. They'll send a heart emoji. They'll say, "Let me know if you need anything," which is just a polite way of saying, "Please don't actually ask me for anything." And the worst, the part that really tears at you, is that you can't even be mad at them because somewhere in the back of your mind, you know you'd probably do the same thing if the situation was reversed. This realization, this moment of absolute clarity, it doesn't just hurt. It fundamentally changes something in how you see the world. It's like someone turned on the lights in a room you thought you knew, and suddenly you see that the walls are different. The furniture isn't where you thought it was, and you've been stumbling around in the dark this whole time thinking you knew where you were going. You feel stupid for having believed otherwise. You feel naive for thinking that all those connections, all those relationships, all that time invested meant something solid, something you could lean on. And now you're here, holding your phone, realizing that when it really matters, when the chips are actually down, you're standing alone. If you felt this, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you've had that moment where the reality of your isolation hit you like cold water, then stay with me because what I'm about to show you isn't comfort. It isn't reassurance that people do care, really. It's something far more valuable. It's the framework for understanding why this is true, why it will always be true, and most importantly, how to build power from this truth instead of being destroyed by it. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood something that most modern self-help gurus desperately want you to forget. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote in his private journals that we are fundamentally alone in our consciousness, that no one can truly bear our burdens, that expecting others to prioritize our needs over their own. Survival is not just naive. It's a misunderstanding of human nature itself. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of the most influential teachers in Rome, taught that the moment you attach your peace of mind to the actions or presence of others, you have enslaved yourself far more completely than any chains ever could. But this isn't just ancient philosophy. This is observable reality in every interaction you have. Robert Greene, in his study of power dynamics throughout history, identified that the most consistently reliable pattern in human behavior is self-interest. Not evil, not cruelty, but simple, undeniable self-interest. Even the people who love you, even the people who genuinely care about your well-being, are operating primarily from their own needs, their own fears, their own survival mechanisms. This isn't cynicism, this is physics. Every organism prioritizes its own survival and comfort, and human beings, despite all our sophisticated social structures, are still organisms. The person you're counting on has their own problems, their own fears, their own resource limitations. When you call them asking for help, what you're actually doing is asking them to deplete their own resources, emotional or material or temporal, to solve your problem. And in that moment, regardless of how much they care about you, their brain is running a calculation. Is this worth it? Can I afford this? What will this cost me? And more often than not, the answer is no, or at least not right. Oh, now or maybe later, which is just a softer no. Before we go deeper into this, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with yourself. How many times have you been let down by someone you trusted? Not strangers, not acquaintances, but people you genuinely believed would be there. Think about that specific moment when you reached out, when you were vulnerable, when you actually asked for help instead of just suffering silently like you usually do. And think about what happened next. Maybe they said yes, but their energy was different, resentful almost, like you were asking for something unreasonable. Maybe they gave you advice instead of action, told you what you should do as if you hadn't already thought of that yourself. Maybe they just went quiet, stopped responding to texts, suddenly got really busy with work or family or some vague obligation they couldn't quite name. And you were left there, exposed, vulnerable, feeling worse than before you asked because now you have the rejection on top of the original problem. If this has happened to you, if you know exactly the feeling I'm describing, that mix of disappointment and shame and anger at yourself for having expected anything different, I want you to leave a comment right now saying, "I've been there." Just those 3 words. You don't need to explain the situation. You don't need to tell the whole story if you don't want to. Just write, "I've been there," because something important happens when you do this. You realize you're not alone in being alone. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of people reading this who are going to see your comment and think, "Me too. I thought it was just me. I thought I was the only one who couldn't count on anyone." And suddenly this pain you've been carrying by yourself, this shame of being let down, of being disappointed, of being fundamentally unsupported, it starts to lose some of its power over you. Because you see that it's not a personal failing. It's not that you're uniquely unlovable or that you specifically chose the wrong people. It's a pattern. It's how humans operate. It's the nature of social dynamics themselves. So go ahead, write in the comments, "I've been there," and leave your mark. Because your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to feel less isolated in their isolation. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you finally accept this truth, when you stop resisting it and start working with it instead of against it. The first thing that shifts is your expectations. And this isn't about becoming bitter or cynical. It's about becoming accurate. When you understand that people operate primarily from self-interest, you stop taking their absence personally. Your friend who didn't show up when you needed them, they're not evil, they're not fake, they're just human. They calculated, consciously or unconsciously, that the cost of helping you was higher than the cost of letting you down, and they made the rational choice for their own survival. Once you see this clearly, a strange kind of freedom emerges. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop looking at your phone, hoping someone will check in. You stop dropping hints about your struggles, hoping someone will offer support, without you having to directly ask. You stop performing your pain in social media posts, hoping someone will notice and reach out. All of that energy, all of that hope, all of that disappointment, it just evaporates, and suddenly you have access to resources you didn't know you had. The energy you were spending on resentment, on feeling betrayed, on replaying conversations and analyzing why they didn't come through, that energy becomes available for solving your actual problem. This is the paradox that most people never understand. The moment you truly accept that you're on your own is the moment you become actually powerful. Because now you're not operating from hope or expectation, you're operating from reality. Let me give you some concrete examples of how this plays out in everyday situations. You lose your job. In the old paradigm, the one where you still believed in reliable support systems, you'd call your friends, your family, maybe post something on social media about being in a tough spot, and you'd wait. You'd wait for someone to offer you a connection, a lead, an opportunity. Some people might share your post, might say they'll keep an eye out for you, might promise to ask around, and then nothing happens. Days pass, weeks pass, and you're still unemployed, still struggling, but now you also feel forgotten and invisible. In the new paradigm, the one where you understand power dynamics, you don't wait. You assess your actual resources, the skills you have, the services you can offer, the value you can create. You don't spend energy hoping someone will save you. You spend energy positioning yourself as valuable in the marketplace. You reach out to people not with need but with value propositions. And when people don't respond, you don't take it personally because you understand they're running their own calculations about resource allocation. Another example, you're going through a breakup, a real one, the kind that tears you apart. Old paradigm you lean on your friends, you expect them to be available, to listen to you process the same thoughts over and over, to validate your pain, to help you make sense of what happened. And for a few days they do. They're there. They're supportive. But then their patience starts to wear thin. You can feel it in how quickly they change the subject, how their responses get shorter, how they stop asking how you're doing. Because your pain is exhausting to them, it's depleting their emotional resources, and they need to protect themselves. New paradigm you understand this from the start. You know that emotional support is a limited resource. You know that even people who love you can only handle so much of your suffering before their own survival mechanisms kick in. So you process differently. You journal, you think, you sit with the pain instead of trying to distribute it across your social network. And when you do reach out, you do it strategically, in measured doses, with awareness that you're asking people to spend their emotional currency on you. The advanced concept here is what I call strategic isolation, and it's the opposite of the desperate isolation that most people experience. Desperate isolation is when you need people, don't have them, and spend all your energy resenting that lack. Strategic isolation is when you understand that you're fundamentally on your own, and you build your entire operational framework from that understanding. This doesn't mean you never connect with people. It means you connect from a position of strength rather than need. You offer value rather than demanding support. You create relationships based on mutual benefit rather than one-sided extraction. Think about the most powerful people you know, the ones who actually get things done, who actually create change in their lives. They're not the ones constantly surrounded by people, constantly seeking validation, constantly needing reassurance. They're the ones who can sit in silence with their own thoughts, who can make decisions without consensus, who can move forward even when everyone around them thinks they're crazy. They've internalized this truth so deeply that it no longer causes them pain. It's just the operating system of their reality. When someone lets them down, they barely notice because they never built that person into their plans as a critical dependency. They might prefer to have support. They might enjoy collaboration. But they don't need it. And that lack of need is precisely what makes people want to support them. It's a power dynamic loop that most people get backwards. They think, if I show people how much I need them, they'll want to help me. But the opposite is true. The more you need, the more people pull away. Because need is repulsive at a primal level. It signals weakness. It signals that being around you will be costly. It signals that you're a resource drain rather than a resource generator. But when you genuinely don't need anyone, when you're clearly capable of handling your own problems, suddenly, people become interested. They want to be in your orbit because you're not trying to extract anything from them. You're a source of strength rather than a black hole of need. This connects to a deeper psychological principle about how humans bond and what actually creates loyalty. We don't bond with people we help, we bond with people who help us. This is counterintuitive, but it's been proven over and over in psychological research. The Ben Franklin effect. If you want someone to like you, the best approach isn't to do favors for them, it's to ask them to do small favors for you. Because when someone helps you, they need to justify to themselves why they did it, and the easiest justification is, I must like this person. But here's where it gets interesting from a power dynamics perspective. If you're the one always asking for help, always needing support, you're training people to see you as a burden. The key is to ask for small things, things that don't cost much but allow the other person to feel generous, while handling all your major problems yourself. You ask your friend to recommend a book, not to loan you money. You ask your colleague for their opinion on something, not to cover your shifts. You create opportunities for people to feel good about helping you, without actually depending on them for anything substantial. This way, you get the bonding benefits of the Ben Franklin effect while maintaining your fundamental self-reliance. It's a dance, and most people never learn the steps because they're too busy either completely isolating themselves or completely draining their social network with constant need. The internal work required to embody this understanding is substantial. You have to dismantle decades of conditioning that taught you to expect reciprocity, to believe in unconditional support, to think that love means showing up no matter what. And this dismantling is painful because it feels like becoming harder, colder, more cynical. But that's not what's actually happening. What's happening is you're becoming more honest, more realistic, more aligned with how human behavior actually works rather than how you wish it worked. You're not closing your heart. You're just removing the fantasy filter that was causing you to repeatedly get hurt by predictable outcomes. Think about children. We tell children fairy tales about loyal friends, about people who would do anything for each other, about unconditional love and support. And those stories are beautiful, they're comforting. They help children feel safe in a scary world. But at some point you have to grow up. And growing up means seeing that those stories were training wheels, not blueprints for reality. The adult world runs on different rules. Not worse rules, not evil rules, just different rules. Rules based on resource scarcity, on competing priorities, on the fundamental isolation of consciousness. Each person is locked inside their own skull, experiencing their own pain, fighting their own battles, and no matter how much they care about you, they can't actually feel what you feel or carry what you carry. Expecting them to is like expecting someone to breathe for you. They can support your breathing, they can create conditions that make breathing easier, but the actual act of pulling oxygen into your lungs is something only you can do. Let me give you a 7-day challenge that will completely shift how you experience this reality. For the next 7 days, I want you to operate as if you have absolutely no one to rely on except yourself. This doesn't mean cutting people off, doesn't mean being rude or cold. It just means not allowing yourself to outsource any problem-solving or emotional processing. Day 1. Something stressful happens. Your instinct will be to call someone, to text someone, to seek comfort or advice. Don't. Sit with the discomfort. Feel what it's like to be the only person in your corner. Day 2. You'll notice all the little ways you usually distribute your emotional and cognitive load across other people. The "can you believe what happened" texts, the "I need to vent" phone calls, the subtle bids for sympathy and casual conversation. Stop all of it. Handle everything internally. Day 3, you're going to feel lonely, possibly more lonely than you've felt in a long time, because you're experiencing the full weight of your own existence without the usual dilution of social support. This is good. This is you building capacity. Day 4, something interesting starts to happen. The problems that seemed overwhelming when you were waiting for someone else to validate or solve them, they start to seem more manageable when you accept that you're the only one who's going to handle them. Your brain stops spinning in loops of, what should I do? Who can help me? Why isn't anyone helping? And starts actually solving. Day 5. You notice that you're making decisions faster, with more clarity, because you're not waiting for consensus or approval. You're not running your choices past anyone. You're not seeking permission. You're just deciding and acting. Day 6, you might reach out to someone, but it's different now. You're not reaching out from need. You're reaching out from choice. You're sharing an experience or an idea, not extracting support. And you'll notice the interaction feels lighter, more balanced. Day 7, you assess. How did it feel to operate as a complete unit? What did you learn about your actual capabilities versus what you thought you needed from others? Most people who do this challenge report the same thing. They're more capable than they thought. They're less dependent than they believed. And the relationships they do have become healthier when they're not constantly trying to extract support from them. The ultimate realization is that being on your own isn't a tragedy to overcome. It's a truth to leverage. Every powerful empire, every significant personal achievement, Every moment of real transformation comes from someone who understood that they were fundamentally responsible for their own outcomes and didn't waste energy resenting that fact. They didn't spend time angry that people weren't showing up differently. They didn't invest emotional resources in disappointment. They simply built their strategies around the accurate assessment that, when it really matters, they're the only person in the arena. This doesn't mean you can't have meaningful relationships. It means those relationships are stronger when they're not built on need. It doesn't mean people don't care about you. It means their care has limits based on their own survival requirements, and that's not personal, it's biological. It doesn't mean you're alone in some cosmic, terrifying sense. It means you're self-sufficient in the most empowering sense possible. You're a complete system, not a half that's desperately seeking another half to function. And when you operate from that completeness, from that self-reliance, people are naturally drawn to you because you're not trying to extract anything from them. You're whole on your own, and that wholeness is magnetic, in a way that neediness never is. So here we are at the end, and if you've made it this far, I know something in this hit differently for you. You felt recognized. You felt seen in a way that most content doesn't see you, because most people are trying to sell you the fantasy, the idea that if you just communicate better or choose better people, or heal your attachment wounds, suddenly you'll have this reliable support system. But you and I both know that's not how it works. You've tested that theory, you've tried those approaches, and you've been let down enough times to know there's something deeper going on. What I've shown you today is the framework that explains why you keep having these experiences, and more importantly, how to build real power from the truth of your situation instead of staying stuck in resentment about it. Now, if you want more of this, if you want to keep developing this understanding of power dynamics, of how human behavior actually works beneath the social performance, of how to operate effectively in a world where you're fundamentally on your own, then you need to subscribe to this channel. Every single week I break down another aspect of power, another pattern in human behavior, another strategy for building genuine strength instead of pretending weakness is virtue. This isn't feel-good content. This isn't here to make you comfortable. This is here to make you powerful, to make you clear-eyed, to make you someone who understands the game well enough to play it effectively. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if this video helped you see something you needed to see, leave a like so more people who need this perspective can find it. I'll see you in the next one, and remember, you were always on your own.